Hey there, John Harrison here, and you're listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Hello, kiddies. Welcome to Dads from the Crypt.
Hello, boys and ghouls. Welcome to episode 108 of Dads from the Crypt. My name is Jason. I am joined by Jody.
Hello.
And Mondo.
Hello.
And tonight we have a very special guest. His name is Graham. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you on. You are on the No Film Left Behind podcast with our good friend Joe Ferry.
I am. I'm actually on Films at First Sight.
Oh, sorry.
Jody is on No Film Left
No Film Left Behind.
Ah.
Is what I do with Joe.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Joe Ferry says the empire of podcasts. I can't keep track.
Yeah, I know. We barely speak. It's honestly the only time we talk is on the podcast, actually. He's too busy for me.
Never have a conversation, just save it for the podcast. Just save it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right.
All right. So tell us about Films at First Sight.
Yeah, so Films at First Sight is a podcast about really the first time experiences. So it's really all about taking films that we love or that our friends love and want to show us, and trying to capture really that first time experience of the movie, the impact of it. You know, we don't always, though we're not opposed to it, do deep dive analyses of these films or anything like that. We really just want to talk about the experience of films and the love of films. And it's been a great ride so far. We have a few episodes in the chamber ready to go, and I think some of the films that we're diving into are really they range such a wide palette of genre and of decade and era, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So you guys should all check it out, and you guys should come join us over there sometime.
Yeah, I think some of us have.
Yeah,
I've been
right.
we did the Chattanooga Film Festival review on there, and I did the movie Strange Brew.
Nice.
That's right. Yeah. For,
Canadian
Yeah,
Film.
right. Talk about what's it called? It's the South Korean movie, The Handmaiden.
Handmaiden, yeah.
Love that movie. Holy
Yeah.
crap, what a good
So
movie.
good.
Mhm.
Yeah. One thing I love about Films at First Sight is that it's kind of like a no judgment zone. You know, sometimes if you reveal like, oh, I haven't seen this like classic of movies, everyone judges you, but not on
No.
Films at First Sight.
Right.
Like, we all have to
we
start
love that.
sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I
absolutely
think
love that.
one of the first ones I listened to was the Showgirls episode. I think that was probably with Caitlin. That was the spicy
Great one. Yeah. I was remiss to be absent of that one. That's actually a fantastic episode. Some of my favorite. Go ahead.
I love the concept because I've always thought like, wouldn't it be great to have like a machine, kind of like in like Men in Black or Eternal Sunshine, that like you could erase a memory, just rewatch a movie for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
Because that would be the best use of that technology, of course. But
I went to go see
Just
They
rewatching
Live.
me.
Yeah, I went to go see They Live last night in the theaters, and it was
how
so
was
much
it?
fun because I love that movie so much.
yeah,
But so we're leaving the theater, and I hear someone ask. I couldn't tell if it was friends or kids because once I overheard this, I couldn't look in their general direction because I didn't want to vomit. But all I heard was like, "Oh, so it was your first time seeing this. What'd you think of it?" Like, it was stupid. And I'm like, I was just no.
I
shut up.
mean-
No. What, Jason? Are you about to end the podcast right now and we're talking shit about They Live?
no. I was just gonna
They
say
Live?
like maybe it's not everyone's cup of tea. Maybe they're not ready to be red pilled.
Well, and those
And
people
Mom-
are idiots.
Mondo, were you getting ready for like a 12-minute fight scene with these people?
Jason, yeah, you and me
Yeah.
going.
So I'm not gonna lie. I burst out and almost I laughed so hard at the scene when you think the fight scene's over because Keith David basically stomps Roddy's head and I've never really paid attention to how great this scene is shot. But he walks over and this is a frame of him leaning against a trash can. I think you see Roddy Piper just saunter into the scene like and barely walk. and the fight just keeps going. And I totally don't remember it being that funny, but I laughed out loud in the movie theater on that one.
It's fantastic.
That's one of those movies that, I think would play even better with a crowd.
Yeah, surprisingly, when you go see, have you ever been to the Fathom events? It's generally more so just a respectful movie going crowd, and nothing wrong with an outlandish crowd. But yeah, seeing that with a bunch of horror geeks at a horror fest would probably be a blast, or sci-fi geeks, whatever.
Sure.
Cool. Well, let's get into it. Tonight we are talking about Tales from the Darkside, the movie, which came out on May 4th, 1990. Jody, you have the honor of doing our plot synopsis.
Plot synopsis is so many of
Synopsi.
Before we started this podcast, I didn't know that we'd be doing anthology movies all the time, and there's be like 8 synopsis every time.
So funny.
So I really, we need to renegotiate our contract a little bit here.
I'll tell you what. There's 3 of us. It would have made a lot of sense, and plus our guest, it would have made a lot of sense for us just to each do one, right?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, I got this. I'm prepared. This is my job. This is my role in this world. I know what I'm here for. All right, so we open. Okay, we open on a woman named Betty. She seems like a normal suburban housewife until we get to her house, and we realize she's planning for a dinner party. And the dinner is her newsboy, who'd been delivering the papers and is now trapped in a cage. And then he decides, in order to stall her a little bit and hopefully find a way out, he is going to do the 1001 Nights technique and start telling her stories out of this book that she has given him, Tales from the Darkside. And those 3 stories make up the 3 segments of the movie. So there's your wraparound. I liked it. I like the wraparound. The horror hosts are fun, but it's kind of nice to have a little story that goes around everything.
Yeah, I love it when the wraparound tells a story, like in some of the VHS films. And it's so let's not to bury the lead too much, but Tales from the Darkside was a TV show. I think it ran for like 4 or 5 seasons. And as far as I remember, there wasn't really any wraparound or anything. It's just kind of like, this is it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool that like they came up with this whole thing. And first of all, Debbie Harry is awesome. She just kicks ass in so many ways. And she's actually she's also in Body Bags, so she's kind of done the horror anthology thing a couple different times. And she was in Videodrone, which is a bonkers movie. She gives a really great performance in that. She's a very low key, obviously she's big for her band Blondie, but she's a low key really good actress. I remember she was in Spawn, which is a great movie. And she's in the new High Fidelity TV show, which I haven't seen. But she does a great job. And then the little boy is played by Matthew Lawrence, quote Timmy, and he's kind of like the every little boy from like mid 80s to early 90s kind of character. He was in Planes, Trains, Automobiles. He was the kids in Mrs. Doubtfire. Then he was in Boy Meets World. Yeah, Boy Meets World for a long time, and they have great chemistry in this.
And also, Matthew Lawrence is the brother of Joey Lawrence from Blossom. That Joy. So have to bring that up.
I did not know that.
Yeah, there's a whole family of them. I think there's 3 brothers. I watched a lot of TV in the 90s, like a whole lot of TV.
Right.
I thought he did so great, and Debbie Harry played that part perfectly. Like just like a little bit too cheesy for reality, but at the same time, like felt perfectly straight. Like she just sat right in that perfect uncanny world. Yeah,
there was a slight detachment.
Yeah, that's
good. I found.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Well, and I feel like this opening segment really set the tone for the movie, because the tone, I felt like between all 3 segments, the tone stayed fairly consistent in like the creepy realm. Like there wasn't as much campiness. Now there was still some funny stuff at times, but it wasn't the campy kind of horror that we watch a lot of times on this show. So I enjoyed it. The tone was just right at the edge of
and
that kind of silliness that sometimes Tales gets into.
And before we get into like each one, I think some of the campiness is more in hindsight, knowing like there's a lot of young actors in this. So like saying, there's so and so. I remember him this and that. So it's almost like in retroactively campy.
Yeah.
All right. First segment, Jody.
All right. So the first story is called Lot 249. And Jason, I have again messed with your spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's fine.
But there was a couple of cool things I saw. This is based on a story by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle of Sherlock Holmes fame. and adapted for screenplay by Michael McDowell, which is worth mentioning because he also wrote Beetlejuice and Nightmare Before Christmas and a bunch of Tim Burton stuff. So, he's done some cool stuff. But anyway, in this story, there is a student named Bellingham who has been cheated by two of his classmates. They were up for this thing at the university, and one of them stole something and blamed it on him so that he would be too tied up in this whole investigation to actually get this, I think it's a fellowship that he was trying for. And it's this girl and her boyfriend. The girl's name is Susan and the boyfriend's name is Lee, and they're ruining his chances. So as revenge, Bellingham orders, I don't know where you ordered this from, but a whole mummy inside a sarcophagus. Lot 249.
Etsy.
Yeah, and he gets it and he opens it up and there's a scroll inside and he reads from the scroll and the mummy comes alive and starts taking revenge, first on the guy, then on the girl. And in the end, though, her brother takes him, he's been there through the whole thing, and he takes Bellingham and is going to get revenge on him, but he decides to let him go and destroy this scroll so that the mummy can no longer do any damage. Bellingham still has the scroll, and when he reads it, our two previously dead characters come back to say that Bellingham sends his regards. So yeah, cool first segment. I really enjoyed this one.
All right, Graham, you're our guest. Why don't you start us off? What'd you think?
Yeah, I loved this one. I mean, from beginning to end. And at first, like, when I had first heard about, like, doing this again, I, like, popped it on really quick, and seeing all those familiar faces pop up with, like, total shock and awe. I didn't watch, I didn't look up anything, I didn't even really pay attention to any kind of credits. And so, like, as each face started rolling in, I was like, oh, great, this is awesome. And throughout the whole thing, I just kind of, I loved Buscemi's character. I really loved, the lighting every time you're in his room and around his dorm, and because you have the faulty breakers and everything just constantly going dark in there, and just the way his face, because he has such a interesting face for those types of, like, close-ups where half of it is cut and everything. I think the way they framed him so many times was amazing. But yeah, I actually, all in all, I think my biggest surprise was Julianne Moore popping up, and just like she nailed that. The cold stare as she watched the murderer, like, walk out the back room, and just no emotion whatsoever at the fact that this guy had just been killed. Yeah, I thought she killed that as, like, just a straight cold calculating woman that she had been set up to be. Be it that she had prepared this crazy grift on what was the character? What was Buscemi's character's name?
Bellingham.
Thank you, Bellingham.
Yeah, this was Julianne Moore's, like, first movie. Like, she's done, like, some TV movies and some TV shows, but this is her first, like, big actress role.
No, she was definitely the one when I was watching, because I did the same thing. I didn't really look at the credits, and I'm watching and I'm like, oh, cool, Steve Buscemi. Oh, cool, Christian Slater. Wait, holy shit, is this Julianne Moore in this movie?
Yeah.
Like, that was the one that was the shocker,
Yeah.
Well, and even the odd man out, Robert Sedgwick, he's Kira Sedgwick's brother.
It's interesting.
And he actually, I kind of loved, like, how douchey that guy was.
Oh yeah,
As, like, the entitled douchey guy. I thought it was kind of funny. He's just so, like, obvious about everything he's doing. He's not even trying. He's just like, oh, I'll get away with it. I'm rich.
Yeah, he's like he's the weakest character in that whole thing. Like, he's the only one who won't. His girlfriend basically takes care of him and earned him everything that he wants. Christian Slater is the only one who will, who's man enough, if you will, to stay behind and watch the mummy get unwrapped, and yeah, like, he ends up being just this very passive, very weak kind of dude, but he's also someone who probably thinks of himself as,
as an alpha.
Yeah, quite.
Yeah, I know he would definitely be listening to Men's Right podcast nowadays.
He has alpha male in his X profile, obviously. Oh, sorry, would he be on what is it? Truth? Is that the
Sure, he don't
Yeah,
do
Truth
Truth.
Social.
All right, Mondo, what'd you think?
I was actually surprised by kind of, and I won't get too deep into it yet because we're gonna talk about it. I was surprised kind of how gruesome and nasty this whole whole trilogy was, because it's Tales from the Dark Side is everybody's heard of it, and this is one of those movies that I either have never seen before or just don't remember at all. So I think it might have been actually a first time watch, but I was pretty sure I'd watched it. But again, I think I would remember Steve Buscemi and Julianne Moore and Christian Slater, which I didn't. And but no, the first segment I thought was fantastic. I think Graham pointed out all the strong pieces involved in it, and I really love the end too, with the decapitation of the mummy and the creature effects of the mummy. I thought were just fantastic, like looks so good.
Yeah,
and unlike most mummies that just go and try to strangle people, he was straight using weapons.
Oh yeah,
right. Well, he was like stuffing Julianne Moore with like the flowers and stuff. That was so cool.
Yeah. And so I thought this was a really well done segment. And I gotta be honest, I've been doing work all day, so I was distracted in the first two, but so I rewind it a couple of times to catch some pieces. And I also love the ending of Buscemi in the when he's in the taxi cab and just talking to this taxi driver, doesn't give a shit about like how they couldn't tell the difference between two ancient scrolls, and just him getting giggles from that was I always love that trope.
Yeah. I've never been like a big mummy person. Like I'm not, I mean, it's cool like in the classic movie way, but I've never been like, oh, I'm so scared of mummies. But I think this might be my favorite mummy depiction, story, whatever you want to call it. Like I think the mummy looks amazing, and it's really menacing. And it's like kind of falling apart, but also still really strong at the same time. Like you don't want to fuck with that mummy. It'll get you. And again, all these great actors right before they all got really big. It's a great opening segment. It's, got a little bit of humor. And I love like Christian Slater's like dorm room or whatever that is. It's got so many like little things happening to look at in the background. And I love Christian Slater as an actor. He's always just so magnetic. You say kind of up and down, but like, he kills a Mr. Robot. I love Pump Up the Volume is my favorite movies.
Nice.
Broken Arrow is just such a fun, crazy action movie if you've never seen it. So yeah, amazing cast that they pretty much probably lucked into, or the casting director was like, these are going to be the next big people. We can get them for cheap. In a fun story. Yeah, it's everything you'd want. It's a very strong opener.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like this one a lot too. I think one of the things, everyone talked about how cool the mummy looked and the effects and all that. This is a K&B thing. They did the effects for this whole movie, and there's some wild effects later on. Like, there's some cool stuff happening in this one, but it's pretty tame compared to some of the stuff we see later. But cool effects. I love that the mummy killed everyone with mummification stuff. Like the first guy, he jams the thing up his nose and pulls his brain out through his nostril, and then he slices Julianne Moore open and starts stuffing her full of flowers. There was so much more lore to it than just like he strangles people.
Exactly.
Like, it tied in the whole mummy thing a lot more, and I really like that. It was a lot of fun.
Just because you're a mummy doesn't mean you forget like all the cool stuff you could do before you became a mummy. Maybe he was an Egyptian mortician. I don't know what they called them back then.
Egyptian mortician.
It was a nice added touch too that she had like basically just cursed at the chrysanthemum. She was like, I don't freaking like these things, and throws them at the guy, and then he basically stuffs her full of them after he kills her. It was a nice little touch.
And one thing we haven't talked about is that this is directed by John Harrison, a friend of the podcast. He just had a book come out. You should all check it out. But he was actually on our episode about a year ago and talked about this movie. So go check that out. But he started off as like an assistant director on like the original Creep Show movie and Day of the Dead. He did composing for those as well. And then he's done the Creep Show, the TV show, Book of Blood, the Dune TV series. He did 2 episodes of Tales from the Crypt. He also did 8 episodes of Tales from the Darkside. So he's a very talented guy. And he's still going at it too. He's got some great stuff coming out soon. But and again, he's obviously very good friends with George Romero. He helped him George helped John get his career on track. And I guess like after Creep Show, they did the first 2 movies, and I think they were trying to get it to be a series. And at the time, they just couldn't get the rights figured out. So, we'll just call it something else, but kind of have the same crew doing this TV show. And then, so a lot of people from the production side consider this to be the 3rd Creep Show movie, but Creep Show by another name. Again, we kind of
Creep Show 3 happened, and
yeah, it wasn't. It's not very
I'd rather
good.
forget that it happened. Like, what the fuck?
All right.
I kind of like too the tone shift in this one, because if it had been Creep Show 3, I don't know if this would have fit in the Creep Show world as much, because Creep Show has a little bit more of that campiness.
Right.
So this is me comic book nerding a little bit here. Creep Show is EC Comics, right? Like that's kind of their whole thing that they're going for. This movie though feels more like there was a comic book called Creepy that was out at the time that was a little darker, a little heavier, like in the 70s. And this feels like Creepy more than it feels like EC Comics. Like it doesn't have that kind of jokiness to it. Anyway,
it's rather sexless. Like it's kind of a little more. Well, yes and no. There's some, but
just a little darker, a little more morbid. But I love the tone of this movie.
Yeah. All right, let's move on.
All right, story 2 is Cat from Hell. This is written by George Romero, based on a Stephen King story. Apparently, too, when the story was first released, it was released in a magazine without the ending. And then they had a contest where people could write what they thought the ending was. And so they released the winners along with Stephen King's actual ending to the story. I'd love to see some of what people thought was going to happen compared to what actually happens in this.
It'd be really cool though to see those people that wrote in endings, because I bet you got a lot of aspiring authors, and I wonder if any of the names are recognizable.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to research that some more later. But anyway, in this story, there is a wealthy wheelchair-bound man named Drogon who brings in a hitman for a bizarre kills. He's expecting him to want him to kill a person, but he says, no, your victim is right behind you, and there's this black cat sitting there. And so Drogon goes on to tell the story of how this cat, he believes it to be murderously evil. There were 3 other people living in the house with him at one point: his sister Amanda, her friend Carolyn, and the butler Gage. And Drogon starts saying that one by one, this cat took them out. One by tripping her, one by actually attaching to her face like a baby alien face sucker,
like a face hugger
on there. and then the last one, he was the butler Gage was taking it away to get rid of it, and he caused a car wreck and killed him that way. And Drogon has made his fortune. Basically, I mean, he's like the Sadlers. He's like the opioid people. He has a highly addictive drug that deals with pain. I feel like this one might be kind of prescient, because this was before we knew about all that.
Right.
And in the testing, though, they have killed 5,000 cats while testing this new drug. And so this cat is there to exact revenge. So Drogon leaves the hitman, who does not believe any of this, but he's going to give him a whole bunch of money for this, $100,000. So, kill a cat, whatever, move on with your day. But
Jody, you're pretty nonchalant about having to kill a cat for $100,000.
Hey, if you're a hitman, I'm assuming it's a pretty normal. It's an easy day for you most of the time.
See, man,
I have a little black cat. We just got back from vacation, and he has been up in my face ever since we got home, rubbing his forehead on me. I'm not killing any cats, man. This is some good stuff. My eyes itch, but I'm happy my cat's here.
not even for $100,000, Jody.
Not even for $100,000. I like my cat a lot. But
well, not your cat. It'd be someone else's cat. Yeah,
old man cat.
Someone's going to pay
Old
you
man's murder cat.
$100,000. Yeah, to murder their cat.
Okay, old man's murder cat. For $100,000, you got to do what you got to do. Everybody's got to make a buck. I just 15 people just unsubscribed just from that.
I know,
So I'm not going to kill any cats, guys. Okay.
Rachel already judged the hell out of me for my dislike of cats, but
yeah, I'm not going to kill any cats. I have 2 cats. They're great.
Anyway,
I love cats.
You're gonna lose no matter what, because a cat could kill 10 people, and there's people out there who would be like, "You leave that cat."
It was justified.
Yeah, exactly. It's just doing what cats do. Yeah, exactly.
Actually,
anyway.
I do enjoy cats and love cats. I just like other people's cats, not my own. I don't want to have to take care of one because they're assholes and we have to take care of them. But if I just come to your house and your cats are, I'm like, fuck yeah, a cat. I'm excited. I'm happy to see them.
Sounds about
Right,
right.
so he's left alone with the cat, and he's getting ready to kill it, and he just can't. No matter what he tries, like he's a hitman, he knows how to aim a gun, but he tries to shoot the cat and just misses, and everything just keeps going wrong. The cat scratches him a couple times, and then the cat kills him by jumping up into his mouth and strangling him, suffocating him as it crawls into his stomach. And then Drogon returns to see if the cat is dead, but instead finds the hitman on the ground. And then his stomach all starts rumbling, and you see the cat kind of move up his throat and burst out of his mouth like this wet cat head popping out of this dude's mouth, pulling his way out, blood shooting everywhere. And at this point, Drogon has a heart attack. He can't get his heart medicine. So that's going to look like natural causes, just like all of the other murders. I don't really know how you get natural causes out of what happened to the hitman. He had the medicine burst out of him. Yeah. Oh, man, it's so good. It's so good. Love that ending. How could you predict that ending in the Stephen King world?
Yeah. That scene was incredible, and I'm very happy to say that my I guess 13-year-old nephew sat down to watch that scene with me.
Oh,
he
no.
just popped in the room. He's like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "Sit down. You're gonna love this." He was petrified by that. He was like, "I know."
That's the best.
Oh man, it was perfect. Yeah, I enjoyed this one. This was right up my alley. I used to love Poe stories when I was a kid, and it really harkens back to that. I love what's his name, William
Hinckley.
I think
Hickey.
Hinckley.
Mm-hmm.
Is it
Hickey.
Sorry.
The
Yeah.
last thing.
God, I love that guy. I mean, as soon as he popped up, I'm like, let's go. I can't wait. I don't care what this is, but and it was quirky. I mean, it was the quirkiest of the three, in my opinion. You know, I think it's pretty easy to say, actually. So yeah, it was a little quirky, but at the same time, like, part of me was really expecting it to just be all in the guy's head, like his own drug was producing this hallucination, and I was expecting it to, like, really on the nose tell you that, and it never really did. But I was very happy with that. That scene was the icing on the cake of just a perfect piece. Yeah.
Mondo.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this second segment too. I was expecting when you first saw, it goes a little bit campy with the hitman to kill the cat. I expected it to be more of like a kind of, like I said, you mentioned Poe, like an Edgar Allan Poe tale where it was gonna be this cat tormenting this guy, but then it got gooey, and that always makes me happy. And like Graham said, that head exploding scene at the end is just icing on the cake of a good episode, of a good segment. And I do love just the innocent look of the cat as he's kind of walking by Drogon at the end, as Drogon just and a shot of the pills falling out as he tries to take his heart medication, but he can't. That's one of those tropes, again, they're trope movies I actually always love when someone's frantically trying to get their pills, and because you guys all know who have on take any kind of medication, that's not really I guess some things maybe it works that way. Like I know, like nitroglycerin pills are heart attacks, I guess. So never mind.
Anti-heart attack medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's the most cat thing ever. I just, like, murdered 2 people. I'm just gonna saunter away.
Yeah, that's the kind of shit cats do. Cats take no responsibility for anything.
I like that they didn't really try to force too many scenes with the cat looking ultra sinister. Like they captured footage of the cat, like, looking the direction they needed and walking away, and it kind of adds to that whole, like, just super, like, I don't give a fuck element to it. You know, it doesn't even seem like it understands the gravity of what it's just done. It's just kind of like, just killed a couple people. Yeah,
Well,
big deal. That's what I do.
They did that cool thing though, where, like, they had little shots of the cat, like little inserts, but then they had, like, the cat vision was, like, the first person.
Yes.
So that way, like, the more active or more sinister movements they did from the cat's perspective, probably because it would look ridiculous to try to get either a real cat to do it or get a fake puppet. It probably look stupid. So, like, by doing it from the cat's vision, you're kind of on for the ride with the cat. I thought that was a really cool film technique.
Yeah. I appreciate too that they actually used a real cat, especially in that last scene, like coming out of the mouth. That was an actual cat. Like you could see it. Like it didn't look like a puppet or anything like that. It was a cat coming out of a hole. and it was wet.
Mhm.
Like, for the cat, he was just crawling out of a hole. But as far as the movie goes, it added to the effect a lot, I think.
Oh yeah, the effects here are top notch. And again, this wasn't like the biggest budget movie, but they get the right people and they shoot it. You shoot it well.
Yeah.
And you can make something relatively simple look amazing.
K and B in there, and you're gonna get good stuff.
Yeah, it's like viscerally, like, oh my god, like, because we all know what a cat feels like, and we all know, it's just, ugh.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think was the worst murder attempt? The hit attempt, like the worst strategy for trying to hit this cat. For me, it was the lethal injection. I was like,
Yeah, I'm like, how you get a needle into a cat? That's stupid.
Yeah, that's the most ridiculous option, and this is like one of the first ones he went for.
I know.
Yeah,
I lost.
I like
my
that he had his like
confidence.
little briefcase of murder weapons. That's always nice. Yeah, so the hitman Hollis is played by David. I'm not sure if I say this right. Johansen. Who was actually the lead singer of the New York Dolls, famous punk glam band. So he was mostly a musician, but he actually, I was reading some information about him, and he once said that like a good frontman for a band should be a good actor. Like you're just putting on the performance, not just singing, but you're putting on the full emotional performance. He was in Scrooged as the ghost of Christmas Past.
Instantly recognizable for me. When I saw his face, I had to look him up immediately.
Yeah, he did some bits on SNL. He was in Oz for a little bit, and I really like his performance in here. I thought it's pretty good because
when I saw him, I recognized him from Scrooge, but also once I realized who he was. Y'all remember the song "Hot Hot Hot"?
Yep.
Feeling hot, hot, hot. That was him. Like he went under Buster Poindexter for that, and he did a bunch of albums under the name Buster Poindexter. And he's got this big, like, slick hair and giant mouth. I mean, the man has a big jaw, and I remember that on MTV as a kid. Like, what a weird, like, yeah, it was a fun one.
Yeah,
we need
like
a segment. We need a segment every week where Jody sings. Jody sings the hits.
And then William Hickey, he was in the original Producers. He was in the Sentinel. He was actually previously on the episode Tales from the Darkside, the TV show. He was in Puppet Master. He was in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. He was in the same year as this. He was in the classic Tales from the Crypt episode The Switch, directed by Arnold Schwarzenegger. So he's I always say he's like the MVP of horror anthologies for 1990.
He has a perfect old man look to where he's just creepy enough, but he looks frail enough to where you're not afraid of him. Like if you got creepy, you could just murder him. But like he's got he's a perfect old man in movies.
Yeah, it's got like his voice is like a slightly higher pitch than you'd expect.
Yeah. Again, a little bit of creep because everyone always had that one relative, not necessarily a grandparent, but everyone's got that older relative in the family that kind of has a weird voice.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I was saying, as a kid though, I still remember being like, you ask stupid questions. Like, why does grandma sound like that?
And then we got a couple other character actors. Mark Margolis was Gage, the driver, the chauffeur, who was in Breaking Bad. Better Call Saul.
Barbecue based movie.
Requiem for a Dream. And who was he in Ace Ventura, Jody?
He was the landlord.
Landlord. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. The reason I added. Okay, this is me messing with Jason's sheet again.
No, I love it.
But I had to add him because in Breaking Bad, this is Hector Salamanca. Like he is one of the best characters of that show, and he's good on great on Better Call Saul too, as like the younger Hector Salamanca. But it's him, and he's the wheelchair bound guy in Breaking Bad, and he's such a great making all these faces, and he's a great character actor. So I had to make sure we mention him.
He was also in Oz too.
Yeah.
Okay. He's in that show as well. But if you haven't seen him in Breaking Bad, just the way he can convey so much emotion and anger without saying a word. Like it's all facial expressions and not even full body language because he can't really move his whole body. And
he's still one of the most memorable characters from the show, even despite all that.
I've never seen someone. Wait, now that is a man who I'm somehow still afraid of, even though he's in a wheelchair and can barely move.
Yeah,
because you see his face, he's upset, and it's like, oh.
He reminds me of. He's like a more threatening George Burns kind of character.
Yeah,
that's how I.
example.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, just passed away. I think maybe a month ago or so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, sad.
R.I.P.
And then we have Alice Drummond as Carol, one of I think Jorgen's sister.
Yes.
And she played the librarian from the opening in Ghostbusters.
Yeah, that's why I
That-
included her in there. That more than anything else.
That opening scared the shit out of me as a kid.
It's
And I
so
love
good.
Ghostbusters. So there were two scenes I always fast forwarded through. Was like the very end of the opening scene, and then the one where the hands come out of the chair and get Sigourney Weaver.
Oh yeah,
Those two scenes freaked me out, but I love the rest of the movie. And she was also in Ace Ventura. I think was she the landlord or the neighbor?
she was Hinkle's mom.
Oh, right. Okay.
I had to look all this up. Like I don't have this
Yeah.
encyclopedic knowledge of Ace Ventura. I love the movie, but I had to go back check these things out.
Now I
Yeah.
want to see a remake of Ghostbusters where she sits in the chair, but it's actually Frank Reynolds, aka Danny DeVito from I'll be hiding inside the chair, and cuts it open and crawls out of it.
But
And then they call him Slimer for the rest of the movie, but he's not a ghost. He's like,
I just must fit my
Danny, if you're listening, I think Danny be into this.
Oh, yeah.
He's in the
All right.
Green Man costume
Yes.
from going back.
All right,
What-
Jody,
what-
next. Oh, go ahead.
This is what a gem of a man Danny DeVito is. I just
Yeah.
want to say that.
Yeah.
If you haven't
Treasure.
looked it up, just look up, just Google Danny DeVito dachshunds, and you can see him walking his two dachshunds who are dressed up. I think in little dresses and little raincoats.
Oh yeah.
Delightful.
All right. So our final segment is called Lover's Vow. And this was written by Michael McDowell again of Beetlejuice and Nightmare Before Christmas fame. And it's based on a Japanese folklore tale about the yokai or the spirit world. I thought that was cool that it was from I think the specific version was from like a 1904 book called Kwaidan, which may be the same Kwaidan the movie's based on. I don't know. I didn't do that much research. But either way, Japanese folklore. So we've got this guy named Preston, and his agent drops him, and he's in the bar drinking. And as he leaves the bar, he witnesses this extremely gruesome murder, like hand chopped off, head chopped off, and it is done by a gargoyle-looking monster. This monster's awesome, by the way. This is like K&B firing on all cylinders. The monster then starts talking. And this is where I was like, oh, okay, I get the Japanese yokai thing because this is like a evil spirit. And so the monster tells him he will spare his life as long as he swears to never speak of this monster, to never tell anyone about what he saw. And then the monster leaves, and Preston's all confused and traumatized. But then he meets a woman named... it looks like Carola, but it's like Carola.
Yeah. It's Carola. Yeah.
Carola. And they start a relationship that night. And then we have a time skip 10 years ahead. Or we find out she's pregnant, and she helps him get a position in this really nice art gallery because she knows a guy. And so his life really takes a turn for the better after witnessing this murder. All these good things start happening. And then 10 years later, we find out about their life. He's got his agent back. They've got 2 young kids. And everything seems really good. But this whole thing about what he saw still weighs on him. And then one night he breaks down and tells Carola all about what happened and the gargoyle that he saw. And he even shows her this statue that he sculpted of it. And at that point, she kind of shrieks and said, "Why did you tell? I loved you." And then starts transforming in a gooey, bursting out of her skin way into that gargoyle from that night. And after she completes her transformation, just, limbs and feet and arms and bursting out and the face changing, then you hear the kids scream from the other room, and they have also changed into these little gargoyles. And he said, Carola, I loved you. And she said, I loved you too. You should have kept this secret. You should have stayed quiet. You made a vow not to tell, and you told. And so she bites him on the throat and kills him, flies up through the roof, through the sunlight, or the sunlight.
Skylight,
Skylight. Thank you. We don't have those in Tennessee. And then at the end, we see this gargoyle statue on the building that is her holding her 2 baby gargoyles. Really, like, just freaking cool. Like, it's just a cool story. The effects are phenomenal with all these gargoyles. These puppets are some of the coolest looking puppets I've ever seen. They hold up. They hold up in 2023 for a 1990 movie. Really, really cool stuff.
I mean, practical effects usually do.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, practical effects done well and shot well. Or, because again, this is the kind of thing that I'm sure if you shoot it without the right lighting or the right angles, would look a little ridiculous. And like for a moment, when at the end, because it's reverted back to the gargoyle voice where it says I loved you, in gargoyle voice to change Remar, you're like, for like a second, I was like, it looked really kind of campy, but like the emotion of that scene had me like so much, like I was like choked up a little bit to think that his wife and his kids are now transforming into these beasts.
10 years.
Yeah.
It was when the kids made a little screech.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, that gets me.
Like, oh God, what's happening?
Yeah.
All right, Graham.
Yeah, I thought this was the tightest one of the bunch, right? Front to back. Like that opening shot of the gargoyle kind of like smiling, watching over this artist kind of prepping his work right up to the very end. And that kind of realization of she really has loved him for maybe even longer than this story lets on. But yeah, I love this one. I agree with everything that was said. Practical effects were amazing. The face on that thing had such a like trickster kind of like comedy sense about, like not cheesy, not hokey, but I mean like the smile on that face, that just sinister. Like this is pure enjoyment for me. I loved it, how they made that the face of that gargoyle.
A really expressive face.
It almost reminded me of a really old like a Harryhausen model.
Which he actually kind of makes in the end, anyways.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That'd be a cool prop to have.
Yeah.
Shout out to the drunk friend who comes like and storms like the art gallery. Like there was something about, I don't know who that actor is, but I actually like found myself just wanting to see more of him in this segment. Like I don't know what it was about him, but I wanted to see his thread kind of develop. I guess I wanted to see him like kind of continue to investigate and kind of learn about it and things like that. I wanted to see more of that.
Well, and as we're kind of wrapping up, because this is the last segment, like each of these I feel like are perfectly timed. Like, we could go deeper into some of these characters, but we don't need it. It doesn't matter really.
Yeah.
Like each of them are like, the whole movie's in 90 minutes, including the wraparound. So like each one's less than 30 minutes. So it's like less than an episode TV.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it kind of leaves you wanting more, which is usually a good thing, especially in horror anthologies, because you only have so much time. You got to get in and get out. You don't want to bog down the pacing.
Very true.
And I like the sequencing of these, because the first one is really fun. It's slightly campy. We got a mummy running around. The second one is probably the most serious, or the most like gothic in that manner. And this one is more like the emotional gut punch. And like, if this was the first one, like, where would you go from here?
Yeah.
Which again, I think it's very important when you make a horror anthology, the pacing and the arrangement of the segments, to kind of think about
100%.
the emotion, the emotional journey you're taking your audience on.
Yeah.
So this one leaves you with almost like rolling a tear, seeing this family fall apart.
I found at the end, like I just felt so bad for this demon.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's a demon, who's loved this mortal for all this time, and it's probably, and my brain immediately writes the backstory, which is that I'd imagine like this is what the demon has to do. The demon has to make the loved one see a terrible act and never speak of it around. I don't think like her turning into the demon at the end was by choice.
No,
right. Agreed.
And that's why I really, and that we talked about that fucking transformation scene. Like I'm like, how did I not know this existed on film before today?
Yeah. It's very was it Nightmare 4 with the Mad George, like insect transformation.
Yeah, it was definitely along those lines.
But I even go like to like, kind of an American Werewolf in London, just to like you can almost feel the transformation in your bones, and it looks just gooey and gross, and God, it's so good.
Yeah, I kept hoping at the end because it felt like nobody wanted this to happen. Like nobody wanted him to reveal this. Nobody wanted for this to fall apart. And I kept thinking like maybe there's a way that they can fix it. Like I kept hoping, but it's just it's a tragedy in the end. And
well, it's not like he revealed it of any selfish
no
need. He did it because he wanted to be honest with his partner, his wife. Like he experienced a trauma that was obviously still bothering him, and the best way to recover from a trauma is to talk it out and everything. So he was doing
anything wrong unless you made a pact with the demon.
Yeah, he was doing the healthy thing for him, but it's the ironic twist is, it's what destroyed his family. Right. So,
well, and even so though, when in his brain basically was saying, if he reveals a secret, the worst thing that can happen is the demon comes and takes me.
Right.
And then what actually happened was way worse than that.
Much worse.
Yeah. The main actor Preston is played by James Remar. Classic character actor from The Warriors. He was actually in Cruising, which I just watched. 48 Hours, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. He was in the Psycho remake as the cop with the sunglasses.
He just got one of those instantly recognizable faces. Like, I couldn't tell where I knew him from, but I knew him.
He was in the What Lies Beneath, Dexter, and he was also in Oppenheimer because everyone's in that movie because it's so fucking long. Actually, one of the first horror conventions I went to, he was there, and he was just kind of sitting by himself. And I didn't really know etiquette or anything at these things, but I'm like, my wife is a big Sex and the City fan, and he had a big plot line in that. So I came up to him and said, "Can I just take a picture for my wife?" He's like, "Oh yeah, sure." So I was able to send my wife a picture from the horror convention, like, "Hey, I'm Sex and the City characters are here."
Good on you.
Okay, and then the agent is played by Robert Klein. He's a longtime comedy writer and actor and comedian. I love that he was in Sharknado 2 and Sharknado 3. Oh hell no! and then
his stand up is surprisingly good. Robert Klein's a really great stand-up comedian.
And he's still alive. He's really up there.
Yeah.
And then the woman Carola is played by Ray Dawn Chong, daughter of Tommy Chong, of Cheech and Chong fame, and she was in a bunch of things, but mostly Commando, The Color Purple, and now she has a major role apparently in the new Interview with the Vampire series. I haven't watched, but
I'm kind of interested in checking that out. I the movie is, it's one of those that I don't think I appreciated it at the time, but on rewatches, it's a good movie. It's solid.
I kind of just love how over the top it is, and just the production of it is so good.
All these big actors just acting as gay and vampiric as possible, Yeah,
it's like that and Bram Stoker's Dracula are just two perfect over the top vampire movies.
Yeah.
Just literally gnawing on the scenery of each other.
I mean, they're not as good as Dracula Dead and Loving It, but I feel like
I watched that for the first time a week or two ago. It's a movie.
I love that movie. It's just silly.
I love Mel Brooks, man. Anything Mel Brooks I'm happy with.
Not as good as some of his other ones, but it was pretty. The Leslie Nielsen part is just so good.
The scene that almost makes you cry when I watch it is when they're each trying to get the last word.
Yeah. Well, did you watch to the end of the credits?
I have. It's been years since I've seen that movie.
Yeah, well, he gets the last word in there too.
Oh, that's right.
Nice.
All right, let's wrap up a little bit.
Well, we need to wrap up our synopsis first.
To wrap up the wraparound.
That's right, because remember, this is a continuing story, and so at the end, she has been delayed for as long as she can because he keeps saying, this is the scariest one. This is the scariest one, to try to just keep her delayed longer and longer. He says, here's the final scariest one. He starts telling a story about a boy named Timmy who gets kidnapped and this lady's going to cook him. She's like, you're just telling your own story. And then he says, but he reaches into his pocket and grabs a bunch of marbles and throws them on the floor. She doesn't notice, but she slips on them. And then she does, which I think he literally just told you what he was going to do. You're a stupid witch, but he just told you you're going to slip on these things. But she slipped. She falls on all of these sharp implements that she had out that she was going to be using to eviscerate him. He got the definition of eviscerate earlier when she told him she would, basically gut him like a fish and open him up and pull all his guts out. And she falls on all that. They all stab into her back. And then she falls onto the tray that she had out for him, like the big old aluminum foil pans that you use to cook a turkey at Thanksgiving.
The roasting pan. Yeah.
I'm not sure where you buy a human-sized one, but that's what this was.
It'd be a weird custom order. Like I needed to fit a 4-foot human.
I mean, speaking of which, where'd you get the oven in general?
Yeah,
Not just the pan, but the whole oven. Yeah.
I mean, also like to be a witch in the woods that has to eat kids, you'd have to have a good career because you have to be able to afford like all this stuff to be custom made for you.
Now, did I miss something that indicated that she really was a witch, or were we just assuming that because she's was she a witch or a cannibal?
Oh, there was a broomstick that was highly focused on in frame.
Like,
yeah,
I would love at the time at least a prequel of her. Like,
yeah,
her whole deal was.
Anyway, she falls on this aluminum foil pan and gets pushed into her own oven. And then the kid grabs a cookie and looks at the camera and says, "Don't you love a happy ending?" Just that little cheeky, wink to the
little
camera.
bow on top. Yeah,
I love how super nonchalant he is. Killed a witch, eating a cookie.
Yeah, one almost died today. Oh well.
and he wasn't that hungry because she's been fattening him up by feeding him cookies. So he just wanted a damn cookie. Nice, addictive.
That's the best damn cookie he's ever had in his life, right?
And they were $1.49 for that bag of cookies. That's like, do the math here. And all I know is that cookies cost 3 times more than they did back then, and people don't get paid 3 times as much today. So,
to the point of like him telling the story and then it really happening, it was funny because like right around that time, but just before everything really started transpiring, as you said, I was thinking to myself that this is like an odd fusion of like Hansel and Gretel and the Never-Ending Story, and then all of a sudden he starts writing his own story, and I was like, oh, perfect, yeah, there it is, like, cool. Landed right in my lap.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun way to wrap up this movie. The wraparound story was always kind of the jokiest part of the whole thing. And so, to end on kind of, you leave the theater with a smile after that, really traumatic, sad ending to the last story. I thought it was a good way to finish it off.
And the wraparound never overstayed its welcome. I have seen that in some of the anthology movies. The wraparound just seems like they're trying to do too much in the wraparound. This one was just kind of quick to the point, told a very basic 3-part story.
Yeah, and I'll say that's an emblematic of this entire movie is, nothing overstays its welcome. This might be the most consistent horror anthology movie I can think of. Like,
there's definitely one. Yeah,
there's no it's never boring. It's all very consistent. Doesn't go as big as some other ones. It kind of knows its lane. Like each of these segments, I could definitely see being an episode TV, but like there's a little bit because the production value is a little higher. It goes a little bit higher than like the TV episode. But you can see each of these being edited down to like a PG-13 version that could be an episode TV. So it's a really good translation of what the show was, but brought up a little bit more with a little more budget, a little more freedom.
This is the South Park bigger, longer uncut of Tales from the Darkside.
Yeah, but like
get that R rating, and
I like that. Like they could have put in another segment to make it a full 2 hours, but it's needed. I think again, everything we have is very enjoyable, and it's nothing exceptional in the but it's just a breezy good time.
Yeah, if they add another 30 minutes, just add another 30 minutes. I've been pretty pissed off. I think it's a common thing nowadays where I see all these movies are just longer and longer and longer, and even I just watched They Clone Tyrone. I thought it was fantastic. I'm like, man, you have 15 minutes you could cut out of this, and it would have been even better. So whenever I have a movie like this is such a tight little package, it makes me happy, and I'm always gonna rate that thing higher.
Mondo enjoys a tight little package.
Yeah. I mean, you know anything about me.
What are your overall thoughts
on my bow?
And what's your favorite segment?
Oh, favorite segment? I think the last one, all in all. I think the first one was like most fun for me because it was like all these actors who I absolutely love, like and just yeah, because there's like a little bit of shock because you think of them nowadays as like A-list untouchable and things like that, and you see them in this role. But I think all in all, my favorite, what I thought like the most strong one and tightly knit, well crafted, was the final one by far. I just thought that was a great story to tell. I thought the again the effects were so good in it. I thought it actually had, to me, probably, just to go back to it really quick, I think it had, like, to me, what was like almost the most real moment in it too, and it was kind of gut wrenching. But when the guy first just says "help me," and the way he says it, like, and just his voice, and like, to me, it was like, oh, that's almost too real. Like, that's exactly what would happen if someone got attacked that way, and they'd be totally dazed and just saying "help me," and I was like, oh, and it gave me all these creeps that nothing else had really come close to, quite, throughout the rest of the thing. So yeah, I'd say the last one, and I loved it. I had such a great time with this. I had watched it before, and I'd known, what we were getting into, but it had been probably 15 years. Like, I feel like 15 or 20 years. Like, I was, may have even been a teenager the last time I saw this at like a freaking sleepover for all I remember, But so still a lot of surprises for having known the film.
Mondo, what's your final thoughts and favorite segment?
Lover's Vow, the last one, just such a great story from start to finish. Like you said, Jason, at the end, I was feeling a little choked up for this family. Although I do have one tiny little criticism of that segment at the very end when she flies up to the top and with her children. She has a smile, and I wish like it would have had a frown or something like that, just a little bit more of a somber face. But however, I'm not. It's not like I'm going to take any points off of it for for that.
That might just been like thing. Like how like the mask or the puppet like just kind of like sat that way.
Oh yeah, I don't care that much.
Resting smile face.
Yeah, but overall, I thought this is a fantastic. Like you say, you don't know if there's been one as consistent. I'd argue Creepshow, obviously, but definitely the most anthologies. Like we always say, you see that really strong open, lackluster middle, and strong end, and this was definitely not the case. And I think this is going to be one of those I definitely revisit sooner than later. I like much like Graham, like I don't think I've ever seen it actually, so I was kind of just having a good time checking out who was in it and seeing especially it's always great to see actors that you love now in those old roles and seeing them young, and sometimes like their chops aren't where they are now, obviously, so it's really cool to see that progress, much like you discover a band's new album and you go back and listen to the first album and hear how much rawer and rougher it was. So I always really enjoyed that in these movies, and it's the perfect place to have a bunch of people like that are anthologies.
Yeah.
Because again, they never overstay their welcome. You get them just for a little bit on the screen, and you have to move on to somebody else.
All right, Jody.
Yeah, I think so. I think technically the last one is the best one, but the one I'm probably going to remember the most is that cat crawling in and out of that dude's mouth. Like that's going to be the thing that sticks with me when I think about this movie, even though the emotional gut punch of that last one was more impactful. I'm never going to forget that cat because it's something I've never seen before. And if a horror movie can show me something I've never seen before, I'm going to remember that. I'm right there with Mondo. This is one that I assumed I had seen. I definitely recognized the VHS cover when I saw it.
Me too.
That really cool, like sunset clouds and the book and this like demon face and all of it. Like I definitely remember that. But I don't think I've ever seen this. I think this is the first time watch for me. And, lots of surprises throughout. Like every segment had moments that I was not expecting, and the first one mainly was just seeing Julianne Moore in a movie like this. But it's one of those that's enjoyable from beginning to end. Every segment was good. The wraparound was good. I don't know why this isn't talked about more. Honestly, it's a really good horror anthology.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I think this is extremely underappreciated, underseen, and I think it might suffer from being the title being like another Tales from, like, and then being kind of at the 80s, kind of the tail end of that wave of horror anthologies. I'm pretty sure I saw this like in bits and pieces on TBS or whatever, edited down here and there. But yeah, the first time I watched it in full was when I interviewed John Harrison last year, and I was really blown away. And the thing I came again from that one was the Lover's Vow one, just the emotional charge of that one. I don't know, each one has a very strong aspect. I love all the actors in Lot 249. The cat scene is probably like one of the most intense ones. And then again, the emotional punch in Lover's Vow. So it's really hard to choose between those. I'm going to go Lot 249 because of all the performances are just so fun. And I could pick any one of these. But that for today, that's what I'm going with. And also just having like the best mummy, I've seen in any form. And again, if people are listening to this, if you haven't seen this movie, we've spoiled the crap out of it by now, but I still highly recommend you go watch it. It's very worth watching. It's very well made. Again, I think it's just criminally underseen, under talked about. So yeah.
Yeah, this makes me want to go check out the series. Like if any of this translates to what the TV show was, yeah, I'm in for it, because the tone and everything of this one was. I love Tales and I love the campiness and stuff, but this really worked for me, just top to bottom. Loved it.
Yeah, if people would like us to do the Tales from the Darkside this series, let us know, and it'd be good to get some feedback on that.
Yeah, we're almost done with Tales. We got to figure out what
Tales. We got to figure out.
I was going to say, I'll be the first to respond. I would love to see you guys do that. So go for it.
I think we'll figure it out, but I think it'd be cool even if we just do a season. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah. I'll say, I definitely want to do some of them. I don't know if I want to commit to all. I saw it was like another 90 episodes, another 2 years of a show. It's a lot to commit to, but yeah, maybe we'll do a season here or there. We'll do like a best of.
Yeah, or if anybody out there is a big Tales from the Darkside fan, shoot us some of your favorite episodes.
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that moves us on to our song of the day, Mondo.
Okay, I have one from a band from Sweden. Surprise, surprise. They are called Infest Dead, like infested, but infest dead.
Nice.
And the story behind the band. Yeah, it does. Well, man, a lot of metal is just goofy as hell. If you ever want to laugh, one of the original Norwegian black metal bands, Immortal. Just look up early Immortal videos. In the music video, half of it is a frontman Abbott running around the forest with the comically large witch's hat on. And when they asked about it later, they said, "Well, why'd you do that?" He goes, "I thought it'd be fucking funny." There's also pictures of him hanging out, I think, in New York with one of his bandmates, and he's looking goofy as hell, like deep throating hot dogs, while his bandmate's looking just grim as hell in the background. And it's just a fun dichotomy. Like, I hope those guys that still do the corpse paint and everything don't get up on stage like, "Oh, people think I'm scary." Like, nah, dude, we're all in on the joke. It's fine.
Oh, please. Yeah, if you don't know that by now, oh man.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was playing in the band, I said, we can do corpse paint one night and it's Halloween, and that's it. If not, I'm not doing it. Or there are some bands that do it for the right. Like there are some now Native American black metal bands. I've talked about them on here before. A lot of them paint their face traditionally. That's a little bit different story. Even though the idea of corpse paint, off subject here, the idea of corpse paint was actually based off like old mythologies of Norwegian Viking riders, and that's how they paint their face like ghouls. So I guess there is always a story behind it. But getting back to the band Infested, they only had 2 records, and the reason was the man behind this band, whose name is Dan Swaino, who, if you don't like metal, the name Dan Swaino, you should look up some of his projects. Like Unicorn wasn't metal. And his solo record, I've talked about it here before. I know Jason's actually listened to it, but his solo record, Moon Tower, is basically 70s prog rock meets, and 70s like synth prog rock meeting death metal, because he uses these death metal vocals and it somehow works. Don't ask me how. The creative force behind Edge of Sanity, one of my favorite bands of all time. But this guy is such an incredible musician that when a band did something he didn't like in their career, he would just make the record he thought they should have made. So that's how this album came out. The album is called Hellfuck. It's kind of an EP because all the songs like 2 minutes long. And the song off this album is called Son of the Darkside. because I was being really super original and just try to find a song with Darkside in it. And I saw Infested did a song. I'm like, fuck yeah, I can talk about Infested. They only did 2 albums. They did Hellfuck and they did Jesus Satan. And these used to be those albums that were very, very sought after. Like if you could get your hands on one of those, whew, I remember buying them from a Milwaukee Metal Fest in 2001 from a vendor table, probably bootlegs. And that's kind of I don't want to say it was better back then, but it was also that like joy of finding that thing that you thought you could never get, and then listening to it and being disappointed. Except for this one this one didn't disappoint me when I first heard it. There are a lot of bands and a lot of albums that I heard were classics in metal, and I'd go buy it and finally find it and buy it and put it in the player and be like, okay. So Curse, Son of the Dark Side by Infested off the album Hellfuck. Find it on Spotify.
All right. And then I'm going to do a little bit of a tribute to Steve Harwell, who just passed away, the lead singer of Smash Mouth. Just because they're one of those like late 90s alt rock bands that I was into like in high school. And I went to a music fest in 1997, which is like had like the most late 90s rock lineup with Meredith Brooks, Folk Implosion, Danny Warhols, The Refreshments, Matchbox 20, Smash Mouth, Candlebox, Cake, The Offspring, and Radiohead.
What?
And
that actually sounds like my nightmare.
Well, high school Jason was really into it, and it's what's funny though is they call it the Big Stink, and you don't really realize why until you get there. You're waiting in line to get in, and it's actually next to the water treatment plant. So while you're waiting, the whole place just smells like sewage.
That's funny. That's
and it was in the middle of the summer, and I remember me and my friends were in line, and these girls in front of us were chatting with, and they offered us some of their water without telling us it wasn't water, it was vodka.
Yeah.
So we started taking swigs and like spitting it out.
Yeah,
pretty quick. You don't
unknown drinks. Yeah,
what's that?
Unknown drinks at concerts can get you in trouble.
Yeah.
At least it wasn't laced like LSD or something like that, and then you're like just tripping balls.
No,
there's nothing wrong with tripping balls, but I'm sure you don't want it as a nice surprise.
I've definitely known people who have taken a swig of something someone offered them at a concert and then had a night they were not expecting.
I did not even take a swig. I was at I think it was either the first or the second Bonnaroo, and I was walking down. I was actually trying to find something close to what happened, but a guy was walking by and he just sprayed me with a squirt gun.
Oh, no.
And as he walked by, I just went, "Have a nice trip." And I just stopped and was like, no.
That's really shitty.
No. But I ended up having a good time. So it worked out. Yeah.
As a guy that's sadly never done psychedelics, not that I have a problem with it, just I know you got to be careful once you get your hands on.
Exactly.
Be careful about what drugs you take. And I guess, I don't know. I got nothing else on that one. But that'd be so terrifying to me to have someone do that to me. And I've never tripped before. I'd be losing my shit. Like,
that would be the worst.
A chill trip for me.
And like totally unconsensual, like not what you're planning to do without, any consent to that. That's really shitty. But
yeah, it was definitely
worked out
different.
I guess.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to all the people stuck at Burning Man right now. Speaking of which.
Oh yeah. I just heard about that today.
Am I allowed to laugh at it? Is it the same as millionaires going in a submarine?
No. That's way different.
But Burning Man Burning Man has gone to the point where the average person can't afford to go to Burning Man.
Oh yeah, I know it's a rich people's.
It's a rich person commune. I think Bill Burr talked about time how he went and he just hated it because he wanted the hippie commune. He's like, oh, this is a bunch of assholes from Los Angeles, and Hollywood. But so maybe it's not that bad that they have to struggle. But I did hear someone die, and I don't want anyone to die.
Yeah. It's more the fact that like from everything I saw, there was like no infrastructure like in the event of this that they had prepared. Like, yeah.
I mean, it's in the desert, Nevada, and your chances are it's not going to rain for 360 out of 365 days. So it's a safe bet. But man, like, well, maybe when you saw the hurricanes rolling in, you should have rescheduled.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, have a contingency plan, like something. They seem like they're completely caught.
Like, I'm not going to go have a fucking dump truck dump like a giant amount of dirt in my backyard before a thunderstorm. Like, that's kind of what they let happen out there. So.
Right. All right, Jody, you got some horror news for us?
I did not prepare for this segment.
Well, let me speak on this here.
That's not bad. Usually when we do movies, I don't think about doing news because I'm like, okay, I want this to be a little more timeless, a little behind the scenes here. So no, I watched the movie and did not get any news together.
I want a video when Jason signs off at night and he kicks his mic over and is like, God damn it. Because I was like, every fucking week we have horror news.
No.
I'm saying, we'll do it live.
He said, Jason, do you have road rage?
No, actually, I'm a very chill driver.
Okay. You seem
I
like
have child rage, but
yeah.
I got my kids while driving, but not other drivers.
I think it's even funnier if you're just walking the street randomly screaming at children for no reason. Like, stop minding your own business. And this keeps on.
No, we went to IKEA today, and I was done very quickly with that because they wanted to go to every single like show display and play with it and check it out. I'm like, we have like miles to go through in this maze.
I buy a lot from IKEA, and IKEA is a place where I curse a lot because I'm like, where the fuck is the arrow? I just want to go buy the furniture I already looked at online. Why do you still make me walk through fucking displays? Please stop it. And yes, I need the spatula. And then I keep like, that's what fucking works. But,
hey, but you know what? I can work on the fly here. I have a little bit of horror news here.
Well, real fast, I want to bring up my one thing that I'm super excited about. Because it's not horror, but it looks like horror. The trailer for Godzilla -1 dropped today.
Yes.
And holy shit. Like, I had goosebumps watching that trailer. I cannot wait. December 1st, I will see it in IMAX. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the Godzilla movie I've been wanting for a long time.
I'm so excited.
It looks fantastic.
Like, yeah, the latest one's just been so sanitized and just like they're trying to be big Hollywood Godzilla. I'm like, no, give us something with a little edge to it.
I have a lot of fun with these new ones too. Like, I love those movies.
Yeah,
I enjoy them, but like I want something a little grittier, a little more like I want to see Godzilla really turn shit up.
Do you even like Godzilla, Jason? Like, did you ever watch Godzilla back in the day when it was, aside from the first one, it was never gritty? I mean, there's one where he's doing ballet.
Kids Godzilla jumping around.
Yeah. No, I know. As a kid, I'll tell you what. As a kid, when I watched those movies, I cried whenever Godzilla died. So I was sad for him. But actually, if you go on, was it Pluto? They now have a Godzilla channel.
Yes.
So I've been doing this a lot, where I just put it on in the background and just like walking through random Godzilla scenes.
You know, like I can like one thing I can say about Godzilla. I've never not like watched a Godzilla fight or anything with Godzilla on the screen and not smiled. Like even as goofy. He punches his son in the back of the head and his son finally blows out the fire or whatever. I cheered at that part. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, but I also get your want for grittiness, and this one looks like it's a throwback to the terrifying Godzilla. So
yeah, I was really in for like the really old Godzilla movies where it's like he's like terrifying. Like the model work on like especially the first Godzilla is fantastic.
Well, the first Godzilla is a grim movie. Like there's no cheesiness to it. It's dark.
To anyone who maybe has not seen it, there's also a big difference between the American version of the original and the Japanese version of the original.
Yes.
The Japanese version of the original is definitely much grittier, much darker because it was kind of a therapeutic piece for a lot of people to see that. Whereas the American one, they threw Raymond Burr in there and left out a lot of stuff about the nuclear attack. So.
Right. It looks like they're going back to a lot of that, just a bit on like the little snippets of dialogue that he's like, yeah.
Well, what I think happens in this is they're dropping some big bombs and one hits Godzilla. And that's why they say they have a line in the trailer like, he'll never forgive us this. I'm like, oh.
That's the kind of thing I'm like, oh, okay, it's on.
Yeah. All right. Other horror news. Chucky season 3 trailer just dropped. And this season they're going to be in the White House. So I have no idea where this series is going. This series is freaking nuts.
I'm so excited.
Don't spoil season 2 for me. So I'm gonna watch it before the third one comes out.
This isn't a spoiler anyway. I can just tell you that Devon Sawa is back again, and this time he plays the president. And I love that he just keeps being in different roles through this whole series. It's fantastic. October 4th is when the first episode comes out. So right in time for Halloween, we'll get more Chucky.
Super excited.
If you haven't watched the series, I know we talk about it a lot on here. The series is so good. It's just as good as the movies, maybe even more than some of the movies.
I watched the first season, and I think it's like the best thing from that series I've seen.
So good. And I will say the Chucky doll is probably the best he's ever looked too. I've watched the whole series multiple times. And there are some times that Chucky looks pretty rough. He looks great in this series.
Well,
and
And shout out
Season
to
2 ends with some amazing moments. I can't wait for more of it.
yeah, because the new effects are done by or not new, but their effects are done by Tony Gardner, father of Kyra Gardner, who's on our podcast, and the two of them are actually starting their own podcast or some sort of show on YouTube.
Nice.
Where they're going to be talking about his effects work throughout his career. So I don't have the name of it right in front of me, but go look up Kyra Gardner, and she's got a promo just released. So I'm really excited for that. It looks really cool.
You can check out. I saw it on there.
I do need you to answer me a question about the new season of Chucky. Is Jennifer Tilly going to be back?
Oh yeah, she's back. Don't worry.
Don't
worry. I would tell you. I would warn you if she wasn't. All right. More horror news. Terrifier 2 is coming back to theaters for a one-day thing on November 8th. So if you are like me and had no desire to see Terrifier 2 in theaters, and then you actually watch Terrifier 2, and now you can't wait to see it in theaters, it is coming back. So if you're a horror fan or a Terrifier fan. Also, Walmart just got an exclusive 4K Ultra HD Steelbook that's coming out this Halloween. Mondo has the 4K. I have the Steelbook. Now I need one that combines the two.
I don't display my Blu-rays like I used to. Now they kind of go in a drawer. So if I still displayed them, I would definitely want the Steelbooks. Speaking of which, I think Walmart's also going to have a bunch of exclusive Lionsgate Steelbooks.
Oh yeah, no, there's some good stuff like the whole Saw series in one Steelbook collection. The Rob Zombie Firefly trilogy, all that's coming to Walmart this Halloween. Walmart's actually becoming a pretty decent place for releases like that. A lot of the big companies.
The new Death Clock Metalocalypse movie only sold at Walmart. Walmart exclusive.
All right, a couple other things. Let's talk about releases. The Meg 2, The Trench, just came out on VOD, and I watched it last night with my family, and I freaking loved it. So if you enjoyed the first Meg movie and you like big stupid action, there are more monsters, there's more mayhem. There's not just Megs, there's giant octopuses, there's dinosaur things, there's walking along the Marianas Trench. It's just everything all at once, and it's fun. It's fun. Directed by Ben Wheatley, like a real horror director. He did Kill List, which is not at all the Meg 2, but I loved it. Like, it's just fun. Like, don't take it seriously. Don't try to read anything into it.
Everything you just said is a reason why I didn't like the Meg, because there weren't enough monsters, or wasn't enough. I thought it was actually boring. So now I'm excited. So now we're
more monsters, more munching, more people get eaten. Yeah, it's good stuff. There is one scene cribbed directly out of Deep Blue Sea that I will not spoil for you, but when you see it, you're gonna laugh if you're a Deep Blue Sea fan like I am.
I love Deep Blue Sea.
It's so good. So anyway, that one's come out. The Last Voyage of the Demeter is now on VOD. Can't wait to check that one out.
Just watched that yesterday, and I liked it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, that's on the top of my watch list.
Like beast. Yeah, I'm down for that.
Yeah, it's. I thought it was just a fun little film.
Not every movie has to be great. Like, some movies can just be fun. I'm happy.
And
I just want to plug
some really cool.
I just want to plug a great movie I just saw last week was the Angry Black Girl and Her Monster.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That might be at the top of my list for the year already.
That was great. I saw that at a screening at Jim Thorpe Film Festival back in April, and oh my god, man! I loved how they shot. Was it Charlotte? Man, is that where it took place? Right. Man, the grittiness of that film, while also being like bright and vibrant at the same time, was such like an amazing dichotomy. I loved it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Watch that. Where's it? Did it release on like Shudder or something like that?
It's on VOD, but I think it's releasing on Shudder.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. I want to say I saw it on the release list this month.
I can't keep up with what's coming to Shudder and Screambox.
I know, it's getting confusing.
They're getting a ton of stuff lately. Screambox actually is. This is not an advertisement, but I would absolutely say if you got $10 a month between the two of them, that's some good stuff there between the two of them.
Yeah, it's Screambox. We mentioned a few times on here is just. God, it's fantastic. At first, I didn't know what I felt about it, but they have really upped their game.
Yeah,
you know that RoboCop doc, RoboDoc.
I want to watch it. I haven't gotten
I
around
want
to
to
it.
watch that too. Yeah.
Yeah. One more thing I need to mention because I don't think I have yet. They are working right now, and I don't know at what stage of development. It may just be in the idea stage. It may be something that's actively in development. But 13 Ghosts, the series, is floating around out there in the news and in Hollywood. And I just really hope it happens. I mean, that's really all I'm saying here is I hope we get 13 Ghosts, the series. It's supposed to be a continuation of the story from the remake of 13 Ghosts from the early 2000s. I know I heard that if they do it, the Juggernaut, the guy with his head in that, or no, not the Juggernaut, what's the Jackal? The Jackal with the guy with his head inside that box thing and the crazy face. He's definitely going to be back in it again. The Juggernaut was a big giant guy.
Yeah.
More in the backstory. You get to what they're talking about is, in the movie, they talk about this dark zodiac and all this stuff. You get into more of that, the lore, the backstory, all the ghosts. It's a really fun movie. I like all the Dark Castle stuff, but of the Dark Castles, that is probably my favorite.
Yeah. Produced by our good friend Gil Adler.
I was about to say, yeah, we got a connection.
For a movie that was really kind of a popcorn horror movie, they really put a lot of thought into that and into the background and the lore behind it, and also Tony Shalhoub and Matthew Lillard.
Yeah. And that's Shannon Elizabeth.
Yeah. One of my favorite discoveries was I never had this one on DVD, but they had backstories for each and every ghost on the DVD, and that's on YouTube now. That's been uploaded for several years. So if you're a 13 Ghosts fan, definitely check that out.
I think we saw it in the theater, and I was so excited to get that DVD. I was a young man working at Target at the time. I was so excited to get that DVD and buy it.
Yeah.
Speaking of backstory,
really, that's not even news. I just want it to happen. I hope it happens. So it's real.
I went to a screening of Mayhem, the Joe Lynch movie, with Joe Lynch in the audience. And he did a little Q&A, and he talked about how for his main characters, he always creates a music playlist to help them get in their headspace.
Oh wow!
And there's actually a scene with Stephen Ewan and what's her name?
Samara Weaving,
where they're like talking about Dave Matthews Band, and she's like dissing them, and like that. The whole scene was improvised by the two of them, purely based by again what he gave them to listen to on their playlist. And he was like, "How'd you guys know so much about those things?" Like, well, he gave us the playlist, so we did our research. So and she and her character's like in the metal and stuff. There's like a scene where she's like making up lyrics, and he said she improvised the whole thing.
That's
just
awesome.
Yeah, and they just rolled with it.
Now I want to know what metal that Joe Lynch listens to. All right, when we get him on, we're gonna have a conversation.
Maybe we might.
Yeah. I'm excited about checking out his new movie when it comes out too. Suitable Flesh.
Yes,
that was he showed us a preview.
Oh, nice!
I totally forgot about that till just now. So yeah, it's like it's basically a Lovecraftian body swap movie.
Yeah,
with Heather Graham.
And Barbara Crampton.
Yeah, Barbara Crampton's in there. It looked really good. I'm really excited for that.
So excited
it looked very gooey. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
Gooey and very Lovecraftian. Two things that go together. All right. Well, thank you, Jody. We're going to wrap up.
Put a lot of effort into that.
Yes, thank you. We put out a call for questions, and we didn't really get any, so we're not disappointed. We're not mad. We're just kind of disappointed, but
no, I'm pretty mad actually. I am actually both. I'm actually both.
Because let's just be honest. Every time you say you're not mad, you're just disappointed. You're also a little mad.
So we have. Go ahead.
It just reminded me of this comedian I listened to who was talking about how his daughter told him the other day, "Hey, have you ever been hangry, but you're not hungry?" And he goes, "You mean angry?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, that's the word." I just share that because I don't know why that reminded me of that, but that was one of those things will never leave my brain till I die.
That's awesome. Well, we have Graham on from Films at First Sight, which is again about watching movies you've never seen before, and we talked about the thrill of the first time you watch a certain movie. So I thought we'd go around and share maybe a couple movies that we wish we could see for the first time again.
Ooh, okay.
Just to put everyone on the spot. Anybody want to go first?
I'm trying to think about what movies had what the fuck scenes in them. that it became, an obvious one would be, something like Empire Strikes Back, to not know the twist and
Right.
or not or go in all 3 Star Wars movies blind and not know that middle piece to it.
Yeah.
Like I honestly wonder, like back in when that came out, where there were people like losing their minds over that scene or over that
Totally.
revelation.
The two that come to my head, one would be Fight Club, which I guess has like kind of a bro image to it, but like at the time, like blew my mind in so many ways.
It has a bro image, but the bros that latch onto it don't realize the movie's basically talking about them.
Yeah, exactly.
That toxic masculinity, and so I think it's always funny when people will say, "Oh, I identify with Tyler Durden," so you identify with the schizophrenic,
you're not supposed to
toxic personality. Somebody you're not supposed to get.
You are missing the point entirely.
Yes,
David Fincher movies, and there's so many amazing shots in that, and so many like little bits and gags, and it's one of those things I still remember the first time I saw it, because actually we tried to see Dogma. But it was sold out. And so we're like, oh, we'll go see this Fight Club movie. We don't really know what it is, what it's about. So going in so blind to that movie and just having your expectations blown all just completely away. The other movie that came to my head is Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
That's a movie that like you'll never get that experience of watching that movie for the first time again. Of just like unraveling all the layers of that movie.
Tell you what I'd like to watch again for the first time. When I watched the Evil Dead remake, I was expecting, like, even though it was a couple years after it had come out, I went into it going, this is a remake. I love the original Evil Dead. I love Evil Dead 2. I guess I'll watch this one. Blew my mind. I love that remake so much. It's one of my favorite movies. I would love to see that again for the first time. That ending scene with literally raining blood down and she's got the chainsaw. That's so good. I would just love to experience it again the way I did the first time I saw it.
Graham?
One of the ones that came to mind for me was one I saw actually kind of recently, but was House. Late 70s Japanese.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Oh man. I love. I wish I could wake up every day and watch that movie for the first time again. Be the start to my perfect day. That'd be awesome.
I would say Audition, to see that again for the first time, or even Old Boy to see again for the first time. Because I remember, I need to go take a shower. And not like in a shower in a good way, more as I felt grimy after watching that movie.
You have a cry shower.
Yeah. But I think for me, I'd like to go back and I think it'd be cool just to go back in time and be at the theater for the opening of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes.
And be able to see people's reactions to that and see what people thought about it. Like, it's something I don't know if like kids at school still get excited over talking about latest movies, because I remember in elementary school when Ninja Turtles came out. And everyone at school talking about it on the next couple of weeks. All the talk was next few weeks. And your friend hadn't seen it yet. You couldn't wait for them to see it because you want to talk about it. And I think going back to those eras and I wouldn't want to stay there because there's I want to be able to jump around in time, but I do want to be there and like forget I saw Nightmare on Elm Street and go experience that for the first time. Or
or like The Exorcist or Alien.
I think a cool scenario would be seeing Texas Chainsaw Massacre on opening night in Texas. Because back then, and people thought it was real, and I think it would have been a real kind of cool, kind of creepy atmosphere walking out of that. Or I think another one for me might be even Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, I was literally about to say that's probably the closest that we have of like something completely revolutionary.
And I'm not the biggest fan of the first one. I actually like the second one better. But I thought the way it was done and the marketing and the ending of it, the way people believed that was a real thing, what was so cool. And that was a really cool kind of time to live through and time to see unfold in real time.
That's another one of those Walmart still books, by the way. The new Blair Witch and that first Blair Witch together on a still book.
Book of Shadows.
Not the second one. No Book of Shadows.
Mondo, you kind of made me think too. I was almost thinking to myself before that, like, one of my favorite things I would love to go back to, and it's weird because I'm really not a fan of the movie, but I would love to go back to the night I saw I Know What You Did Last Summer in the theater, because we were in a city theater. And it was a madhouse, and the comedy that was going on in that audience was, it was the best time I've ever had in a movie theater by far. I wish I
That's
could
awesome.
go back to that.
Yeah,
one.
and yeah, that made me think of another really good one was for the 3D My Bloody Valentine. I love that movie, but like seeing that with a huge crowd Friday night with everyone's in 3D glasses, or The Grudge, not The Grudge, The Ring. That
That
was that was the scariest I've ever been in the movie theater.
This one isn't one that really scared me, but it does at points. I want to go back. This is a movie that I recommend to everybody. I want to go back and rewatch Spontaneous for the first time and have my heart broken all over again. What a freaking amazing movie!
Yeah, it's a great movie. Watch on an airplane, try not to cry in the airplane. Person next to me.
I watched The Hangover on an airplane for the first time. I was just like laughing my ass off. Everyone thought I was probably crazy, but
yeah. Last time I was on a plane, I watched The First Predator, and it was a plane from Switzerland, and they just kept giving me little things of red wine, and mixed with the anxiety medicine I was taking to fly. That was a memorable trip, if I could remember it.
if you can remember it.
If I could remember it.
All right. Well, that wraps up another episode. Graham, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you?
Thank you for having me. People can find us at FFS_podcasts, pretty much across the board there. Actually, Joe just opened up a Blue Sky, but I don't have the handles for that. I don't even think he does yet, to be honest. So, but yeah, at FFS_podcasts, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere you're gonna find us, that's how you'll find us. Leave me alone online. I don't care about all that. You don't need my personals. Just contact us through FFS. Yeah, I appreciate it.
I just like having more followers and certain people. Like I have a buddy of mine that posts like 10,000 photos because he's got to write a novel about everything in his life, and he's too old to be doing that. Carl, if you're listening,
Carl.
What's funny? Any of my friends, I hear that, I'm like, oh yeah, he does do that. But I just like knowing I have more followers than he does, and I average like one post a month for the past 10 years. like I'll post when I get a haircut just to like promote my barber, or like my jiu-jitsu school I go to. But that's about it. I'm like, yeah, I got no reason to show up for anybody.
Yeah, I always have that same. Anytime I guest on a podcast, and they're like, "Where can people find you?" I'm like, I mean, here's my social media handles. I never post. I'll go through a period where I post like 3 times in 2 months, and then I'll go dark for the next 3.
Well, it's kind of funny because you ever hung out with someone that posts their entire life on social media, and then you go to hang out with them, you really can't talk about anything because like everything. Like I know everything. Like we can't even have a conversation.
Yeah,
it's always funny.
What you been up to? Like, just check my Instagram.
Yeah. It's always funny seeing someone in person for the first time after a while, and then like, oh yeah, I didn't know if you're okay because you haven't posted on social media. It's like, no, I tell you, I'm okay.
Probably better than I'm better off now.
All right. Well, next week we're going back to Tales from the Crypt. We'll be doing the season 7 episode Kidnapper. We appreciate everyone for listening. We really appreciate if you give us a rating, review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify, and check out our YouTube for videos of these podcasts. And with that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Adios.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.